The United States Army actually has locations in other countries outside the United States that you could potentially get stationed at. And maybe you want to know, what are they? What are these locations I potentially could get stationed at because I want to request for it, I want to re-enlist for it, whatever the case might be. What's up, my friends? So today I want to kind of talk about some locations that are overseas, which there are 5 of them that are available for US Army soldiers to get sent to. Now, there might be other locations outside of these 5 that are maybe more of deployments or training environments, but these 5 locations are places where you could potentially get stationed at. So being stationed there means that you go there, you put in with a unit and you're staying there for probably like 1-2 years, something like that, depending on what the typical time frame is for that duty assignment. But that's different than a deployment. Deployment, you deploy with your unit from wherever it came from to go to that location for 6 months, 3 months, a year, whatever it is, where this is talking about duty assignments. So these are places you get stationed. Of those 5, there are 2 of them that are your more common ones that are a little bit easier to kind of request for. So we'll end up starting off with those 2 before we get into the other ones that are a little bit more of a challenge. But before we do that, you need to understand that, this isn't a guaranteed thing that you could request to get assigned to that location. If you're someone that wants to join the Army, well, when you go off to, basic training AIT, at some point in your initial training, you're gonna fill out what's usually called like a dream sheet type of thing, where you can put down some locations in the United States you would like to get sent to, and some locations overseas you would like to get stationed at. Putting it on that dream sheet does not guarantee it. What it's gonna do is, if you put these locations on there and there happens to be one of those locations that they really need your MOS, then yeah, you might end up getting it. But if you put down these locations and they don't need your MOS currently, then you might not get anything that's on your list. I mean, that's what happened to me. I didn't get anything on my dream sheet, and I've known quite a few people that have been in that situation as well. But I have known people that did get something that they put on their dream sheet. They put this location on there, and that location had units that needed their MOS, so they got it. And it was, nice deal, because they got to pick kind of where they got to go for the first duty assignment. And then if you're re-enlisting to try to go to one of these duty assignments, well, that's still not guaranteed either, because there still has to be a slot available for you. But that does make it a little bit better of an improvement, because now you can know if you're gonna get it or not gonna get it, because you tell them, hey, I want this location, and they tell you, no, I'm sorry, I don't have any slots for you. And then you go with a second choice, and then hopefully narrow it down to get the place you wanna get. So let's start off with the first location that is available of the 5 for overseas duty assignments, and that is Germany. Now, when you're requesting any of these locations, that goes the same for Germany, you're not gonna get to pick which base on Germany you're gonna get to go to. You're gonna maybe pick Germany, but the exact location in Germany really depends on what units need as far as MOSs. And if they need your MOS, then you might get sent to this one, but they're gonna determine that. You're gonna maybe have an opportunity to choose Germany, and they're gonna pick which unit it is in Germany that needs your MOS. There are several locations in Germany. I'm probably gonna butcher the hell out of like the names. I know there's like Stuttgart, I don't know. There's also the other main one, which is Hornsfels. Like I said, I'm probably butchering the hell out of the names, right? I've never been to those locations. I've been to Germany as a tourist, and then I've been to Ramstein, just to the airport, but that's Air Force. And that's about the experience I have for Germany. But I have known many people that have been stationed in Germany. They love it. Germany is actually on the top of my list. If you see my video of the top 5 duty assignments, Germany is number 1, because so many people I have known have just loved being stationed in Germany. There's so many places to go to, so many sights to see, a lot of nearby countries you can visit, and a lot of them said that they would stay their entire Army career in Germany if they were allowed to do so. I mean, that's always going to be up to personal opinion, right? You might be the kind of person that absolutely hates Germany, maybe for whatever reason, right? Maybe your unit goes to the field all the time and you don't get to enjoy the activities in the area, or whatever the case is. But the majority of people I've ever met loved the hell out of Germany. Also understand that just because you're in the military doesn't allow you to just go over to these countries very easily. It used to be that way, where you simply could just show a military ID and you could hop on a train and maybe head over to France, head over to another country, whatever kind of a thing. But that's no longer the case. I mean, as of recording this video, COVID definitely plays kind of a factor in there. But even outside of that, you typically still do need a passport nowadays. It's not as open as it used to be type of thing. We just have a military ID, because now you have to have the military ID and orders to be able to go to that country to show that you're being assigned there. Outside of that, like if you're stationed in Germany and you want to go over to France or something like that, well, then you're gonna need a passport. So keep that in mind as well. Now, the second location that's a little bit more common for overseas is Korea. Also the same deal. There's a lot of locations in Korea that potentially you could get assigned to, but you don't get to pick which one you're to go to. That's gonna depend on what units need your MOS. The rule of thumb with Korea usually is the farther south you can go, usually, not always, but usually the better it is. I have been stationed in Korea. I was stationed in Korea for 2 years because I extended. It's now pretty common that a 2-year assignment is the common one. They don't do a lot of 1-year assignments anymore that I've heard. They're kind of trying to get away from 1-year assignments because that doesn't allow a soldier to really be that beneficial to the unit, because they get into the unit, they get trained up with that unit, and then they leave, kind of a thing in a short time period. So now most of the tours are trying to go towards that 2-year at a minimum type of thing. But when I was there, I was as far north as you possibly could go for the United States Army, and that was Camp Boniface, which is the Joint Security Area, or the JSA, and that's right there on the border of North Korea, right there at the DMZ. That is the furthest most camp there is in Korea. But I remember hearing a lot of stories from some of the soldiers that were stationed further down south, maybe at Humphreys or some of those other further south ones, where they said it was awesome. So there's so much to do over in that area, because that's usually a lot more of where like the touristy type of stuff is in the southern part of Korea. Farther north you go, it's more just Korean culture, things for natives in the area kind of thing, not necessarily so much for touristy type of things. So your things to do get a little bit more smaller of a list. But I had fun in Korea. I think Korea is a pretty good duty assignment. Like I said, Germany, a lot of people love that one. So those are the 2 most common ones that potentially you could get sent to, but there are 3 more on the list that are a little bit less common. But before we get into those, I need you to look down below. Are you subscribed to this channel? If you're not, hit that subscribe button. While you're down there, you gotta hit that bell, because you wanna be a part of that notification platoon. That way you get notifications when new videos go live, when we do our live streams, all that kind of stuff. You wanna stay informed what's going on in the Army, what new things are happening, what changes, what advice do I have for you from an Army veteran like myself? So hit that subscribe button and also click on the bell. So let's get into the other assignments for overseas that are maybe a little bit less common. So then the next one, which would be I guess the 3rd location then, is Japan. Japan does have Army installations, but they only have 2. Now, with Japan and the other 2 that I'm gonna talk about as well, these ones are harder to get because the installations are smaller. So they're not like the locations in Germany and Korea, where they have a lot of installations and fairly good sized installations that have a lot of soldiers. So when those soldiers leave to go back to the States, get out of the Army, whatever the case is, they have a lot of slots to probably fill. Where with these smaller installations, when somebody leaves, maybe they have 2, 3, 5, whatever, not very many. So there's not as much of a variety of, units and soldiers for you to fill the slots when they become available. So these are locations you potentially could get to. They're just harder to get than like Germany or Korea type of thing. And that may end up depending on like the time frame, right? You may end up in a situation where Germany is super packed with your MOS, but hey, Japan opens up. So it turns out that Japan was actually easier to get than Germany was at that time frame. All that really just depends on the time frame, but typically on average, these locations are harder to get. Now, I have never been to Japan other than just real quick at the airport type of thing and then moving on type of thing, but I have known people like on the Air Force side and the Navy side that have been stationed in Japan and said it was pretty awesome. This could probably be a great place, like if you're into technology, you could probably go to Tokyo. I don't know how like close Tokyo is to some of these locations, but there's a lot of other like kind of technology type of things that come out of Japan. I mean, PlayStation, Nintendo, all that stuff comes out of there. So a lot of cool technology type of things, and you probably get some pretty cool stuff over there. Outside of that, I have no idea if it's a great place to get stationed at. I don't know if it's a place where units, go to the field all the time, but that really varies based on leadership and how gung-ho they are with training and what's going on at the time too, to determine, how often you're actually doing training. Another duty assignment overseas, Belgium. This one also only has 2 installations on Belgium that are actually available for the United States Army. So again, it's gonna be pretty tough to get because who knows how many slots are available. With a lot of these, you also could run into the problem that there is no slots for that MOS. You might be in a certain MOS where there is no slots for that MOS. I mean, you might have a situation with maybe like a 17 Charlie, maybe certain other more like obscure type of MOSs that aren't the main major ones. You might not have this problem like 11 Bravo, 88 Mike, certain other kind of ones, but for certain MOSs, this may be impossible for you to get stationed over there because there is no slots for you. But with Belgium only having also 2 installations, it makes it pretty challenging, right? There's probably not a lot of slots available. I have never known anybody stationed in Belgium, so I have no idea as far as if this is a great place to be stationed at or if it's a horrible place to be stationed at. So if I've got anybody out there that has been stationed in Belgium, drop some comments down below. What did you think about it? If you were stationed in Belgium, maybe even if it was something like you were in the Navy or the Air Force or something like that, I want to hear about it, and maybe other people would like to know too. Now, the 5th and last location that I've got on this list of places you get stationed overseas is Italy. And Italy, from what I understand, is an amazing place to get stationed at. A lot of people in my video that I did about like the top 5 duty assignments, a lot of people said in the comments, Italy, why isn't Italy on this list? Well, that's because Italy is a little bit more challenging to get. Those locations that are in that video are a little bit easier to get, a little bit more common that people are gonna get stationed at, whereas Italy is not a super common one because just like those other ones that I mentioned, they only have 2 installations on the entire country. So it's gonna play a major factor of, do they have slots for your MOS? And if they do, then sure, maybe you might be able to get it if there's not someone else already in line ahead of you to try to get stationed there. But yeah, I mean, you can get stationed there, but like the same kind of factor, there's only 2 installations, so your pickings of available slots is very limited. But that's why it didn't make the list of top 5 locations, even though it's probably better than any of those locations on my top 5 list from a lot of people I've talked to that have been to Italy, but it's not as easy to get as those locations that are on my list. I had a couple of friends that I knew that were stationed in Italy that had gotten that before, and they said it was amazing, said it was great. I don't know if that's still the case with the way Italy is now type of thing, but then, you know, when I talked to people a while back, they said it was amazing. But again, it's not easy to get. And you know, if you can get it, awesome. I've known people that have gotten it for their first duty assignment too. That's not to say that you can't get it for your first duty station, but it is a little harder to get. If you were kind of in a situation probably where you're trying to get Germany or trying to get Italy, you probably have a higher odds of getting Germany than you would of Italy. But of these locations for overseas assignments, which one would you pick? If you were, you know, given an option to pick one of these locations, which one would you pick and why? I want to hear about it down in the comment section down below. And for my veteran viewers out there, have you been stationed in these locations? What did you think about it? What were, you know, the great things about it, or why was it bad? Whatever the case was, let me know down in the comment section down below. For me, I have only been stationed in Korea for that location. I've been overseas for Iraq, but that's not a duty assignment, that was a deployment. So talking about specifically duty assignments for being stationed somewhere, Korea is the only one I've actually been stationed at off this list. I've been to Germany as a civilian, but being stationed was Korea, and I liked Korea. Korea was fun. If I was to pick from this list though, I probably would pick Germany. I feel like Germany has a lot of cool things. I remember from being a civilian over there as a tourist and nearby countries that there'd be a lot of opportunities to see a lot of cool sites that I have never seen. So I would probably pick Germany off this list. Now, if you haven't seen my videos talking about like the top 5, you know, best places to get assigned to, or the top 5 worst duty stations, check those out down in the description box down below. Now, also to make it easier, there's probably a couple of videos that popped up on the screen, and if you haven't seen those videos, definitely check those out. Hit that thumbs up, check out links down in the description box. I'm Christopher Chaos. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time. See ya.